Hello, Eustis Middle School. Today for First Chapter Friday, I'll be sharing the book Straight On Till Morning. This is by Liz Braswell, and this is part of the Twisted Tales series. Within the series, the authors take some of our favorite Disney movies, and they ask a question that changes part of the storyline. So for this one, what if Wendy first traveled to Neverland with Captain Hook? Because in the movie, if you remember, if you've seen it, she travels with Peter Pan. So they're going to take that switch, and what if she went with Captain Hook? So sit back, relax, and find out maybe this is a book for you. Somewhere in Neverland. Wait, did we look over by the Troll Bridge? We did? What about the Tonal Spring? And the beaches around the shimmering sea? The asker of these questions was a slender young man of indeterminate age, though perhaps if an observer looked him dead in the face, she would notice the last pockets of baby fat plumping his cheeks just above the cheekbones. His eyes and mouth and even nose wiggled and puckered with every word and thought in between, like a toddler telling a very important story to his mother. His hair was mussed up and red, his eyebrows a thicker, darker red, and where his ears just touch pointed at the tips. The one who answered his questions certainly had pointed ears, though the same observer might be harder pressed to make out any ears or actual answers at all. The boy spoke to what appeared to be a little more than a golden light that bobbed and sparkled and tinkled like bells. In fact, the whole scene resembled a mesmerist quizzing a pendulum held from a long golden chain glittering in the sunlight, whose vague swings returned meanings known only to the oculist himself. But upon looking more closely, one would see that inside the golden bauble was a tiny woman with very pointed ears, a serious face, a green dress, and sparkling wings. Her body was like a series of energetic globes, from her golden hair in its messy bun to her hips, to the round silver bells that decorated her shoes. Throughout the conversation, every part of her was animated as her friend's face. Really? We looked in all those places? Huh. Well, what about here? The boy spun suddenly and grabbed the side of a tree as if to physically move it out of the way. Really, he was just looking behind it. But there was nothing hiding there aside from some brightly colored lichen, a camouflage moss, and a few grazing unicorn beetles. From this sudden motion and burst of energy to dead exhaustion, the boy slumped strangely, drained by disappointment and exertion. He slid down to the base of the tree, causing at least two of the shimmering white beetles to flee into higher branches. The babble of light glittered aggressively up and down. It jiggled angrily. I can't anymore, Tink. I'm beat. I just don't feel like it. The fairy, for that is what she was, zoomed closer, concerned. And it was when her light shone its brightest on his countenance that most unusual detail of an already fey and wondrous scene became apparent. For no matter how intensely she glowed, no matter how perfectly yellow and dazzling the sun in the sky shone, neither source of light managed to produce a shadow off the boy. The babble jingled in tones of hope. I don't know. We've looked everywhere. Twice. Tink, I just don't know where it could be. The babble swayed quietly, pensively, almost as if the fairy within was in the rarest state of awe for fairies, deep thought, possibly bothered by something. But the boy, even in his diminished state, still kept his attention permanently fixed on himself. He did not notice. She jingled once tentatively. Nah, I don't feel like flying. Not right now. I think I'll just rest here for a while. You go on without me. I could use a nap. Then I'll feel better. I just don't know it. I just know it. The fairy jingled worriedly around his face. Just go look without me. He swatted her away like a gnat. Sleep already overtaking his body once, the decision had been made. Don't feel like flying any more. He yawned a giant repulsive yawn and was soon snoring. The fairy regarded him silently. She hung in a cool shadow of the generous tree, spun gently by a summery breeze. They were at the edge of the quiescent jungle, which was the friendliest forest in Neverland. The leaves of the trees spanned every shade of golden green, and the creatures who lived there were all harmless and mostly furry. The air smelled like ripening blackberries, although it was not quite the right season. A whisper of cool moistness hinted at a delightfully icy stream somewhere nearby. Only a fool would want to leave. Only a genius would choose to nap there. But Tinker Bell was twitchy. She had a rather dark inkling of where the shadow could be, since they had effectively proven where it could not be. And if her friend ever found out that she'd had this inkling all along, he would be very cross with her indeed. She floated silently over to his face, a golden sparkles illuminating every lash, every freckle, every pore. He blew out through his careless lips, and his breath lifted up the ends of his long shaggy bangs. She hovered above his pudgy nose. After debating and biting her own lip, she gave him the tiniest quick fairy kiss on it. Then she steeled herself and zoomed into the sky like a bee bent on finding its way home after a day of foraging nectar. But she was not going home. She was going to look for Peter's shadow in the scariest place of all. She was going to London. So that's the end. I'm going to read you the synopsis to give you a little bit of an idea of the storyline. 16-year-old Wendy Darling's life is not what she imagined it would be. The doldrums of an empty house after her brothers have gone to school, the dull parties where everyone thinks she talks too much, and the fact that her parents have decided to send her away to Ireland as a governess. It all makes her wish things could be different. Wendy's only real escape is the writing down of tales of Neverland. After nearly meeting her hero, Peter Pan, 4 years earlier, she still holds on to the childhood hope that his magical home truly exists. She also holds on to his shadow. So when an opportunity to travel to Neverland via pirate ship presents itself, Wendy makes a deal with the devil. But Neverland isn't quite the place she imagined it would be. Unexpected dangers and strange foes pop up at every turn, and a little pixie named Tinker Bell seems less than willing to help. But when Captain Hook reveals some rather permanent and evil plans for Neverland, it's up to the two of them to save Peter, Pan, and his world. Alright, so if that sounded good to you, this is Straight On Till Morning. Come and check me out at my cart, and maybe this is the book for you. Have a good day. Bye.